Thank you for watching Culture Fix. Today I am joined by rising singer-songwriter Jack Kane, who has impressed with his single Swimming Pool and Gold. Now Jack drops his new EP Obvious. It's full of intelligent lyrics, impressive indie pop production, and today Jack has joined me to chat about it. Sorry, that's an embarrassing intro, but I feel you've got to kind of big your guests up.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
So Obvious just dropped, was it last Friday? How's it feeling that it's out there?
So good. I mean, I feel like I've been so busy with stuff to do with this musical that I haven't really had time to process the fact that I put it out finally. I've like been wanting to put it out for so long. The reception's been amazing. I feel like it's my first project that feels really different or like something that I wasn't expecting myself to kind of write and release, which is really exciting. And I think it still kind of keeps the same lane as everything else, but it feels a lot fresher to me.
Um, I'm really interested in the kind of the story behind the production of it because obviously, I'd read that there's a kind of a flow, and you can hear that when you listen to that kind of narrative and the idea that the songs all just kind of flowed one from the other. Can you talk to
hmm
me a wee bit about like your initial thoughts about creating this? Was that the plan from the onset, or is it just the kind of the way the songs fell?
Yeah, absolutely was not the plan at all. I finished my last EP and was kind of in a weird space where I wanted to do something that felt exciting and new. And I just kind of wanted to hone in and find a newer sound and like a different sound that I hadn't really explored yet. And I was kind of stewing on that for a long time and I didn't know what that was going to be. And then I went into a session and wrote Breaking Up at the Department Store. And I was immediately like, okay, I feel really like clear about what I want this next project to be. And then over the next few months, I wrote the rest of it. Um, I think I'd actually released Breaking Up in the Department Store before I'd written half the rest of the EP. I just kind of had an instinctive feeling that I knew that it was all going to be fine, and I was like going to end up actually writing the rest of it. And it kind of just fell into place. I didn't really know it was going to be. I mean, it's sort of a very loose story. It like follows a narrative, I guess, throughout the whole thing, but I didn't really know that was going to be a thing until until I sort of listened through the whole thing and was like, wait, this kind of makes sense if you put it in this order. It's like you meet someone, you have that like lustful first time, you fall in love, and then it slowly just like becomes worse
Yeah,
and worse.
arguments in IKEA.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Never a good place. Um, yeah, so it kind of was very just accidental, but I'm glad it fell into place the way it did.
Well, you mentioned wisdom tooth there, capturing that kind of lustful, like first stages of a relationship. How did that idea formulate? Because it's such a kind of odd metaphor, but it's brilliant. It makes total sense. But you're taking something like quite like unsexy, like your wisdom teeth,
Yeah.
and making it this sort of romantic analogy.
Right. I mean, I how that started. So I wrote that with a guy called Jez Ashurst and Johnny Wright. I'd written with Johnny a lot before, but I'd never met Jez before. And for some reason, I don't know why this was a thing. I'd always wanted to write a song about like teeth or like something to do with teeth. I find teeth really interesting because they're sort of a weird concept, aren't they? They're like bones, but they're just like in your mouth and
Yeah,
like
it's odd.
yeah, they serve like such a purpose, but they're kind of like fragile and weird. I have like loads of lyrics about teeth in my in my phone, just like separate stuff. And then Jez came in and he was like, "What kind of thing do you want to write today?" And I was like, "I want to do something weird. Like, I just want to do something that's sort of not normal love song." And he was like, "How weird do you want to go?" And I was like, "Okay, about as weird as we can go with it still being palatable." Um, and he had an idea on the way in, and it was literally, I think it was as simple as like, da da da, your tooth, da 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 da, da. And it was sort of just that. He had like some chords and stuff, and as soon as he said tooth, I was like, yeah, I'm in.
The hook was
Um,
there.
and then yeah, with Johnny and Jez, we sort of fleshed out the idea, and we were all kind of writing it, I think, with the like with side eyes of like, is this too weird, like what we're doing? But all of us were very much like, no, this is interesting. Um, but it was really quick. Like all of the songs on this EP, I think were written in one session, sometimes even like 1 or 2 hours. Um, And I think that in turn has helped me be able to listen to the songs way more than I usually listen to my own stuff because it feels like I didn't labor over it and I can't hear every like punctuation thing that like I spent hours writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a nice change.
I think it's a really effective hook to pull you into the EP and be like, if that's the first song you heard, which it was for me, um, it does kind of pique your interest and you think, okay, this is something interesting and
Right.
yeah. So I think it was a good hook into the EP. And
Oh, thanks.
hopefully, some dentist is not going to pick up on the kind of metaphor behind it and use it in an advertising campaign and
Yeah, mate,
you'll
that'd
earn
be
a
good.
few quid.
Get a Colgate collab.
So you mentioned kind of briefly in your last answer the sort of the writing sessions and how it was quite condensed and quite fast paced.
Mm.
I'd read the term flow sessions that the ideas were kind of all just. Is this something
Yeah.
you've come up with, or is this just the kind of the general
No.
vibe of these sessions?
So a guy called Mark Elliott, who's become a really, really close friend, he's an amazing producer, introduced me to this way of working, which was really awkward at the start because he sort of thrust it on me when I didn't know him that well. And I think when you're like sort of nervous about meeting someone, you like want to come out with a good song, this way of doing it can be really nerve-wracking and sometimes like detrimental to your like self-confidence in the session and stuff. But luckily our first one went well. He does it with a guy called Matt Zara all the time, where they just will they're such amazing musicians that they will just pick up a guitar and they'll be able to play like a really interesting entire song that has like beautiful structure to it. Um, and will expect me to like throw lyrics and throw like melodies over the top of it, like on the spot.
Yeah.
We've done some like really good ones. Civil Unrest was pretty much entirely one of those. It is usually a bit of like a detective work after you've done that session, after you've done that flow, because it's not, there's usually lots of missing pieces,
Mhm.
but I think what happens is the song naturally tells you what it wants to be about, and you just have to fill in the blanks, and it's so much more sort of natural. And I think you don't end up with these like predictable ideas because you're kind of pulling things together rather than like laying them out.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I love it now. I think there's actually a clip of John Mayer doing this on a podcast, which is like really interesting. Um, but yeah, I kind of swear by it now. It's like the way I like to do it.
Yeah, I think if you're then your lyrics are probably going to have that more slightly interesting, less conventional approach. Like you say, you
Mm,
might be able to kind of pull things that maybe you naturally wouldn't have connected yet. So it's an interesting one.
right. Mm.
But it's interesting though because I think listening to your lyrics, they do seem quite meticulous and well thought out. The ideas. Um, with that kind of humor layered in as well. There's always a kind of like knowing wink I kind of feel in the songs I've listened to in this EP. How would you describe your kind of conventional songwriting process? I know it was maybe slightly different for this EP, but what's your normal kind of go-to routine when writing a song?
I honestly don't think I have one now. It used to be really like I'd sit down, try and write the first lyric, then the second lyric, then the third lyric. But now it just feels like such a mess in such a good way. Like I'll write a chorus of something and then leave it for 6 months and then I'll think of a lyric and it will bring me back. I don't think I've written like a structured normal way, quote
Mhm.
unquote normal way for like, I don't know, like 2, 3 years now. It just feels, I don't know, I wouldn't even know where to start to describe it because it's so all over the place. Um, yeah, and it is just I describe my songwriting process as a mess. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned briefly about the slight awkwardness of working with new songwriters and sort of
Mm.
new sort of producers and things. Um, Is that quite an intimidating experience to step in and kind of be expected to be vulnerable and be honest with your lyrics and your kind of music when you don't have that initial relationship with these people?
Definitely at the start it was. I think because I've done quite a lot of sessions now, it feels kind of like second nature, and you just get used to this sort of openness and if it's a little bit like I think a lot of producers describe sessions as like therapy because
Mhm.
people would just come in and just like tell them their deepest, darkest secrets straight away. I always think it's got to be way harder for girls in the industry go because a lot of producers are like men in their 30s just traveling. into like a city and just sitting with like a strange man for like 6 hours alone in the room's got to be pretty tough. Um, but I think, yeah, I'm at a place now where I kind of will tell anyone anything without feeling too awkward, I think.
Yeah, it's a nice stage to get to, I suppose, an open
Mhm.
book.
Yeah,
Um, I mentioned briefly, so sorry, you mentioned briefly in the your quote in the press release about not wanting to kind of feed into this culture of instant gratification and this disposable nature, I suppose, that so many songs have just taken on that they've
right.
just become TikTok sounds, and it's just that throwaway nature until the next one comes along.
Mhm.
How do you kind of future-proof your music to make sure you don't fall into that trap? Because obviously you want to make it hooky and you want to kind of
Mhm.
capture listeners, but without falling into that trap of just being a throwaway track.
Um, that's a good question. I think for me, I think I rely a lot on my like influences, and there's usually like a little alarm that goes off in my head if I write something that feels like none of them would say anything like that. I don't know, like referencing things in like pop culture. I feel like you have to be so nitpicky about what you think will last the test of time. Because sometimes you can reference something that will just really date a song so quickly, and like things nowadays, especially, change so quickly. Like, I don't know what is even a good example. Like, if I said Twitter in a song back in
Yeah.
2016, that now doesn't exist. So, yeah, it just dates it. But I think, yeah, anything that feels sort of like not classic, I kind of try and steer away from. Um, but then it's tough because it is fun. It is really fun. Like I wrote a song called "The Sound," where I like there's some lyrics in there that are like X Games mode and just like weird shit that
Yeah.
I normally wouldn't say, but for some reason it works. Um, I think I try and be quite like strict on whether a song is supposed to be like a classic song or if it's a fun sort of time capsule, or I think a song has to know exactly what it is. And if it is like a bit of a time capsule where you're referencing a lot of things that are going on, then I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's funny because it can be an appeal. I'm just thinking of like Charlie XCX did the 1999
Mm-hmm.
song and things like that can be quite
Yeah.
cool and in the sense of there's so much nostalgia. But I guess
Yeah.
it's just picking and choosing when is a good time to do it.
Mm.
You mentioned some of these classic influences that you had. Was that down to your parents' kind of music choices or their interests? Do you think that had an effect on you and your songwriting and your sensibilities?
I think so. I was definitely a lot of people I think grew up thinking adults were not cool at all. Whereas my parents were pretty cool. All of their friends were quite cool. So all of the music that they listened to, I wanted to be like them, and I would listen to sort of like old stuff when I was quite young. And I think, yeah, I think my entire music taste is based on the fact that I thought my parents were quite cool.
That's a
Um,
nice thing to say.
yeah, but that's not to say I think there was definitely a period where I listened to a lot like only new music. And that's sort of when I started writing. And then I think through that, I like fell back in love with like the stuff I used to listen to and found like, I think I would listen to like whatever was played on like heart radio when I was a kid. And
No.
then actually like deep diving into those artists when you're a little bit older is really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, any stuff from the 70s, I feel like is pretty much what I listen to now.
I think sort of that cherry picking of your parents' CD collection things is quite an
Mm,
important, influential moment. You don't realize at the time, and there'll be these ones that every parent had, but it's that element of you select the ones that are going to shape your interest. It's interesting.
yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
also I had a friend Sam who would always listen to the coolest music ever, and I honestly think he is a massive influence on my music taste. Like his parents are die-hard Fleetwood Mac fans, and I went on holiday with them, and all they played was Fleetwood Mac, and I'm pretty sure after that holiday that has been like my main influence for the rest of my
yeah.
life was Fleetwood Mac.
It's funny. I'd recently, well, it was my honeymoon, and Stevie Nicks was playing Vegas. So I was like, right, we need
Oh
to go
my
to Vegas
God.
because I've always wanted to see Stevie Nicks, and
Mm,
it's just timeless music, and there's
yeah.
just something about her presence, and I know that the whole band that just feels ageless. It just
Completely.
defies sort of time. You don't listen to it and think this is a 70s song.
Yeah.
It's still so strong and so powerful. So yeah,
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. Everything about her being is just so iconic. Like watching her like turn on stage, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's Steve. Nuts.
Yeah, there's just something about that twirl that just hooks you in.
Yeah.
It's like a spell.
Yeah.
But very cool. Um, when did you make that decision about, okay, I am going to go into recording and performing? Because I imagine there's an element of thinking, I really like listening to music and I like maybe kind of
Mm.
playing around with writing music, but when did you actually make that decision to actually put something down?
Um, it was so for ages, probably from when I was like 10 to when I was about 19, all I wanted to do was film and TV acting. And I was quite lucky because I consistently worked through that period. I'd always written music, uh, and then lockdown happened. And my plan in lockdown, I'd written like an album that I was going to put out because I guess I had no work or like anything to distract me apart from music. Um, and yeah, the album was basically done, and I was post started to post on social media, and my manager found me, Jamila, who is like she's an absolute god, like she's just unbelievable. Um, and we started talking. I sent her this album, and she was like, "Don't put it out yet." She was like, "Let's like get you in sessions. Let's take this a little bit more seriously than you would like potentially go to." And I'm so glad that I didn't put that album out. First of all, I didn't want like you only get one debut album, and if I'd like done that, then the next one's not my debut album, and it was also pretty shit. But there was some good stuff on it, like More and More, which was on my first EP, was on that. There's been a couple of things that have come out that have been like mutations of what was on that album. But yeah, it was very much like a boy in his bedroom just recording stuff through his laptop. So I'd say 2020, about 2020 was when I started actually trying to do it. Um, yeah, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's funny you mentioned the thing about the debut album because I think as someone that listens but doesn't write or create, you're not really analyzing the fact it's a debut too much, but it must be such a big thing to put out this first body of work and say, this is
Mm.
me and this is kind of my sound, and then you kind of evolve from that. So yeah,
Yeah,
I guess it must be something you have to kind of think quite carefully about and think,
I
okay,
think
is
so.
this what I
Yeah.
want to be my first piece of work?
And it's also quite expensive to do. I also think with EPs, there's a lot more freedom of expression. You can like really play around with stuff without too much pressure. But yeah, like you say, when you release an album, it feels like you have to lock in on your sound.
Mhm. I know you recently have toured UK, done a few performances. I think you were in Glasgow as well recently. Um,
Mhm.
what was the most surreal, kind of exciting moment of that experience?
Um, I mean, to be honest, every single moment of it was surreal. Like I've always wanted to be in a tour bus. I've always wanted to sell merch. Like all of those like classic experiences were really surreal. I think a moment that sticks out to me a lot was in the London show. I've wanted to play Omira for so long. I saw one of my favorite artists there, Madison Cunningham, must have been like 2019, something like that. I just fell in love with the venue. Obviously, she's amazing, so her performing there, it must be a good place. And I just was so desperate to perform there. When we locked that into the tour, that was amazing. And then doing the show, sometimes things can be so like you've hyped things up and you've like just had an idea in your head of what it's going to be, and then the actual experience blows it out the water. The moment when and I'd never done this before, where artists like play the last song and then go off stage, but it isn't actually the last song, and then they go back on. I'd never had an opportunity to do that, probably because people usually just want me to get off and so they can see the actual art. Um, but so we went out of the actual building, and then I think the adrenaline of like being on stage actually just left my body in that moment, and I could actually like take stock of what was going on. Um, yeah, and just hearing like the one more song, it just gassed me up so
Yeah.
much. And then coming back out, I think that moment, I'll never forget that moment. It was unreal.
It is funny, isn't it? Because I think that has become such a tradition, isn't it, with
Mm.
concerts and well, I think internationally now. So to actually be the one that's in control of what you come back and you
Yeah.
sing and you deliver, and I guess when you're kind of constructing that set list as well, there must be an element of you're kind of wanting to weave a show that kind of takes people along with you. How
Mhm.
difficult is it to come up with like the perfect live set list?
Um, it feels almost impossible not to disappoint at least like a few fans, because obviously you can't play every song. Um, I think I'm quite lucky in the terms of I've released sort of a lot of music in a short amount of time. So I can fill a set with quite varied stuff and have like acoustic moments and have different moments. But yeah, it is a weird one because I'd never done it before. I didn't know whether to expect people to say one more song or if they were just all going to get their backpacks and leave. Um, so you sort of leave the best one until last and hope people realize that you haven't played the good one yet. But yeah, it is a bit nerve-wracking when you step out the building and you're like, well, I hope they say one more song, otherwise I'm just going home. Yeah.
So you're currently nationwide tour of Miss Saigon. Um, so you're embodying a character on stage every night, and you're singing a very different type of music.
Yeah.
Is it hard when you're in the zone of those sort of performances to come off and actually create as Jack Kane and work on music as yourself?
Um, it definitely has been, but I think it's definitely not going to be. It's only been difficult because we've been so busy. There literally hasn't been a free day. We get one day off a week, and up until maybe Wednesday last week, we've been in all day, every day, apart from Sundays. So on Sundays, I'm literally just in bed,
Yeah.
like trying to recover. But now we've actually opened, I've kind of got my days free, like can do stuff like this. So it feels like I can slowly start rewiring my brain into being myself in the daytime. Um, and I think it's going to be really positive, to be honest, because there's very little distraction up here. I've got like no mates. Well, I have got mates in the cast, but I've got none of like my own mates to like invite me to stuff. Um, so I'm kind of just looking for stuff to do in the day, which is great. I love being bored. I think being bored is the inception of most of my ideas, is when I'm bored. Yeah.
Nice. Um, do you kind of find it difficult to kind of maintain that sort of, you mentioned Sunday as like a rest day, like maintain the stamina of the just massive live shows and then the traveling between different cities? How is that as an experience? Is it enjoyable or is it draining?
Um, so far it's definitely been draining. I think because I've never ever in my life sung this much or had to be this I've like when I've done my own musical tours, it's 1 hour of singing a night, and then maybe you'll travel the next day. You won't sing until 8 p.m. the next day. This schedule is insane. I'm on for like the show's about 2 hours 40, just screaming my head off. And then twice a day, like you say, travel, and then inevitably there's like, oh, everyone's going for drinks because it's press night or whatever, so you're out a bit later, and I'm definitely still learning how to use this as like a tool rather than like something that's fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and also navigating like trying not to get ill is feels like a minefield. Like I'm shaking people's hands, thinking like, if I put my hand in my mouth now, I'm gonna lose loads of money.
Not straight after you shake
Yeah,
it.
that'd be so weird.
No, you need to get the little hand sanitizer in your pocket. Just you don't
Yeah,
want to be rude, but equally so, it's
yeah, yeah,
we're getting into that season where people are coughing and
yeah.
spluttering. It's not very glamorous.
Mhm.
Well, let's wrap up with just some quick fire questions, and yeah, then I will leave you alone. Um, what is next for you musically?
It could be a number of things. I've got about four different ideas for a project, four different projects, and I'm not sure entirely which one I want to do. I've got so much music that I haven't released. Um, so honestly, I don't even know, but the answer is probably lots of things.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
What was the last song that you couldn't stop listening to?
Um, I keep listening to Everybody Loves You Now by Billy Joel. But actually, wait. I keep listening before every show. I play Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. It just gets me in the mood.
That's a good one to get pumped. Yep.
Yeah.
Your dream collaboration.
Would probably be someone like Madison Cunningham or if we're going to shoot for the stars, Sabrina Carpenter would be so fun.
Yes.
That'd be sick.
What is your most used emoji? If you use emojis, maybe you're a full stop guy.
Um, no, I'm definitely not a full stop guy. I use the like the dead like the skull emoji quite a lot of like when I'm taking the piss out of someone.
It's a nice one. One word that would sum up the obvious EP. Presume it's the title. That's maybe a stupid question.
Um, one word. The EP to me feels like that kind of you know when you meet someone and they tell you everything about them straight away. Is there like a word? I guess like an oversharer. The EP
Yeah.
is an oversharer. Yeah.
Nice. What is your pre-show ritual, if you have one?
Um, do you know what? I don't have one. I always try and force one, but I don't. I honestly don't have one. But I need to get one. I eat a lot of sports mix at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there not even like a wee peppermint tea or something for the voice?
No, I just don't, I'm just so bad with like habits. I'll go to the gym like twice every month and then forget that it even exists. Like the least addictive person ever.
What is your favorite lyric that you've written?
Um, I always like it's hard to break a sequence with a sequence in your eyes is my favorite.
Which I notice is your Spotify bio as well.
Mm.
Um, what was the first album you ever bought?
Bought or like
Well, I
ripped
suppose,
off.
yeah, we're probably now in the age of like stream.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember which one I bought now, but it was either Pink Friday by Nicki Minaj or Doing It Again by Skepta, and one of them I definitely like ripped off some like website, but I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the Skepta one I ripped off.
Yeah, it's when you have the little kind of the radio bit beforehand or a little bit of like an advert beforehand, you know it's a LimeWire classic or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, Jack, honestly, it's been a real pleasure chatting to you and good luck with the EP and good luck with the Miss Saigon tour. I'm sure both will be great. Um,
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
and yeah, we'll see you this evening and look
Yeah,
forward to
yeah.
it.
Right. Cheers, man. Lovely to chat
Right,
to you.
catch you later. Bye bye.